Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint by Sing Shong. Chapter 361. Inaudible Words. Part 1. Jang Haeung moved through the forest of the small island and was reminded of Kim Dokja's words. You are the hidden card of this scenario. Before the scenario started, Kim Dokja had called Jang Haeung separately. Jang Haeung suddenly heard those words and was embarrassed. He hasn't been interested in me so far. Jang Haeung was sad. No matter how much time he spent with the other party members, Kim Dokja neglected Jang Haeung. 3 years after the end of the revolutionary game or the Demon King selection, Jang Haeung had long felt alienated. It felt like she had been excluded from all the main scenarios. Why didn't you ask me to join Kim Dokja's company? This was the most disturbing thing. She wanted to ask. Why didn't Kim Dokja invite her to join the nebula? Perhaps she was forgotten. The unidentified wall says, don't trust Kim Dokja too much. Shut up. The unidentified wall says, he is just using you. Maybe this really was the case. Kim Dokja was the most practical person Jang Haeung knew. Nevertheless, Jang Haeung replied, Kim Dokja isn't such a person. Why do you hate Kim Dokja? The unidentified wall asks, do you want to be friends with him? It would be good if we were friendly. We haven't talked much lately. The unidentified wall asks, why? Do you like him? I like who I like. Jang Haeung replied bluntly and bit her lips. My favorite is the Demon King of Salvation. The unidentified wall is looking at you. That's him. It is different. In any case, I just want to get along with him. The unidentified wall is sighing. Even if he kills you one day? Why are you saying such ominous things? The unidentified wall had never liked Kim Dokja. It was from the first time it met Kim Dokja all the way to the present. Don't get in my way. Last time, I didn't get a giant story because of you. The giant story that told of the victory in Gigantomachia, torch that swallowed the myth. Jang Haeung had watched through the screen and was overwhelmed, moved, and finally sad. She thought she should have been there. She should have hurled herself into that blazing flame. She should have been part of the giant story. Yet she couldn't. The unidentified wall says, trusting people will only make you disappointed. You have suffered enough in your last life. She had no confidence. Would the torch have gone out if she jumped in? What if the giant story was ruined with her involvement? What if Kim Dokja didn't want her involvement? Jang Haeung was different from the other party members. She was a resident of the demon world and came to Earth. She wasn't a companion who fought with Kim Dokja since the first scenario. Thus, she couldn't say that she wanted to go together with him. There was an insurmountable wall between them. It was a wall that couldn't be reached, no matter how she tried. Jang Haeung didn't have a history to share with them. This way. Just a bit more. Hyewon SSI, please give me Gil Young. I'll take him. It's okay. I still have enough stamina left. Voices were heard in the distant bushes. Jang Haeung reflexively hid herself behind a tree. A wounded man and woman were running while carrying a child on each of their backs. They were people Jang Haeung knew. Yong Hyewon and Lee Hyun-sung. The two of them were being chased by monsters. They were followed by half a dozen orcs and 2 trolls. Based on the direction, they seemed to be moving across the field. The source of the smoke. It was the wrong choice. The direction they were heading in had more fearsome monsters than orcs and trolls. If this continued, they would be wiped out. Jang Haeung reflexively clenched her fists and got up. To be exact, she tried to get up. The unidentified wall says, don't save them. What? What nonsense is this? The unidentified wall says, if they die here, you can be Kim Dokja's only friend. At almost the same time, the running Yong Hyewon tripped over a stone and fell. Yong Hyewon and Lee Gil Young fell onto the ground. The orc close behind them raised a glaive. It was too late to evade. Yong Hyewon shouted, Gil Young. Run. Jang Heung looked at the falling glaive and thought. Maybe the unidentified wall was right. If these people died here. Thank you. The conversation she had with Kim Dokja before coming here flashed in her mind. For what? The words you said at that time. Kim Dokja muttered with his usual distant face. You said it. Even if the other side of the wall can't hear it, still, leave something on the wall. Jang Heung had wondered. Did she say that? When? Was she drunk? Kim Dokja continued. Thus, I'm doing it. As you said, one day somebody might look at the traces on the wall. Jang Heung could see Young Hee-won closing her eyes as the glaive fell. Lee Hyun-sung was shouting something while Young Hee-won covered Lee Gil-young. By the time she came to her senses, Jang Heung was already running. Your new attribute is preparing to bloom. Her fist stretched out. The orc's glaive broke like straw before her transcendent fist. Young Hee-won stared up at her with wide eyes. Jang Heung looked down at this person and thought. Fool. Kim Dokja wouldn't recognize their feelings. The demon king of salvation was a demon king, not a god. He would have no interest in what they did. However, just because it couldn't be communicated didn't mean their hearts weren't there. Jang Heung stood as if guarding the party members and said, leave it to me from now on. It wasn't too late to make history from now on. She still had a lot of time. I breathed out and opened my eyes. Exclusive skill, Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint Stage 3 has been turned off. Exiting the third-person viewpoint. Fortunately, Jang Heung met with some of our companions. I was nervous that she would be delayed, but luckily, it went according to plan. They met with Jang Heung and now they would be safe. I raised my stiff body and reconfirmed the message in front of me. You have earned the right to use the skill Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint as a reward for clearing the hidden scenario. It wasn't possible to use skills on Reincarnation Island. The story was different after completing the hidden scenario, survival game. The exclusive skill Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint is fixed at the lowest level. A system error has occurred. There is no level concept for this skill. This skill isn't affected by the first generation probability. At first, I thought it would be better to get the license for Bookmark. Then I thought about it and Bookmark was a skill that borrowed other people's skills. In other words, if I got a license for Bookmark but no additional license for the other person's skill, Bookmark would be useless. It was an island with too many constraints, but it couldn't be helped. The thing I needed to go on this island was more important than skills. I heard Lee Jai-hai's voice in the distance. Great master. It was already the second day. Lee Jai-hai was chasing one invincible fist Yu Hozung around. Great master. Please tell me that story. It was the same with Yu Hozung, gave a cow food. Just one phrase. I can really learn well. Lee Jai-hai annoyed Yu Hozung even when doing his laundry or cutting firewood. How did you do that yesterday? You stretched out your fist and his head exploded. Of course, Yu Hozung didn't say anything. I thought it wouldn't be easy to learn story control. It took a long time for Kyrios and the Breaking the Sky Sword Saint to learn this technique. Story control. It was the name of a pure technique, not a skill or stigma. There were many explanations for it in Ways of Survival, but I didn't know it precisely because there were many voices. Thus, I was actually a bit worried. The giant story torch that swallowed the myth is growling. I had to do something about this brat soon. It was this evening that Yu Hozung first became irritated. Stop chasing me. In addition, why I am your great master? Well, you are the master of my master's teacher. I smiled as I heard Lee Jai-hai's words. It was true. Lee Jai-hai's master was Yu Jong-hyuk. Yu Jong-hyuk's master was the Breaking the Sky Sword Saint, and the Breaking the Sky Sword Saint's master was one invincible fist Yu Hozung. Yu Hozung stared at Lee Jai-hai and sighed. It isn't something you can learn. Those like you who are accustomed to the system won't see any effect, even if you train for 100 days. You taught great master. They were transcendence, without any sponsors. They are different from you. It was a sober refusal. You never know. I'll do exactly as you tell me. Your position is wrong from the beginning. This isn't something you can learn, just be doing as I say. Have you felt nothing while following me for 2 days? Yu Zhonghyuk's great master, they even had the same surname, gave an unlucky smile. In fact, I knew. Yu Hozong was testing us the whole time. Haven't you heard anything here? Li Jihai and I looked at the surrounding scenery at the same time. The man cleaning up the pig's poop stared at me, like he was asking what I was looking at. The story master of cleaning defecation is determined to live happily today. The woman harvesting the crops was drinking rice wine while humming a song. The story master of labor is humming while helping its master's work. The old man carrying the axe sighed and sat down on the ground. The story millennium woodcutter is saying that young people these days don't know how to respect adults. There were no great stories. They were stories made by cleaning up animal poop, singing while working, or cutting wood. These stories were different from other stories that I knew. There was a strange harmony in the stories. They felt different from the stories seeking power or the stories that tried to dominate their master. An ensemble of one story and one being created over many years. Yu Hozong said, it takes 10 years, 100 years, 1,000 years to obtain only one sentence. Those are real stories. Real stories. It was an interesting expression. Don't you have stories? Train well in that method. It is useless to learn other stories now. But I can't become as strong as you. That depends on what you do. The important thing is to look at the story correctly. Look at it correctly? A story that is too big makes it impossible to know the direction of the story. I had heard such cryptic words before. Was it from Lycaon when learning Way of the Wind? I had this thought and suddenly started to worry. Could I learn story control when I couldn't even learn Way of the Wind? I was troubled when hearing people talk about talent. Yu Hozong sighed and opened his mouth again. Phew, these damn kids. I'll tell you just once. At these words, Li Jihai sat in front of him like a demure student. I also approached and listened to his story. What do you think is a story? Li Jihai rolled her eyes and answered, a tale? Pitiful. Don't just scold me. Let me know. I have to explain from the basics. Yu Hozong clicked his tongue and raised his left hand. What do you call this? Left hand? Yu Hozong raised his opposite hand. Then what about this? Right hand. Then what about when they are joined together? Li Jihai pondered for a moment before answering. 2 hands? Then the story replied on behalf of Yu Hozong. The story ambidextrous boxer is having fun. Yes, this leads to the words 2 hands. Many people call it a relationship. They perceive it as a similar form. Li Jihai had a blank expression. It was an expression that showed she didn't understand. Yu Hozong spoke like he knew. If so, what would you call this? Yu Hozong grabbed the twig on the ground with his left hand and asked, one is the left hand and one is a twig. What would you call them if they are tied together? A left hand holding a twig? Or left hand and twig? I felt a cool sensation. It isn't easy. Do you know why? Li Jihai shook her head. Yu Hozong said, there is no correct relationship between the two. Whether it is left hand and twig or left hand holding a twig, it isn't something that falls naturally. It is awkward. Yu Hozong held the twig like a dart and threw it at a tree far away. The twig flew quickly and stuck into a tree. It looked natural, like it was originally part of the tree. It is the story that narrows that awkward distance. It connects the most distant things in the world. If you want to control the story, you have to make sure to understand the story. It was a seemingly confusing explanation. Li Jihai stared at the twig on the tree, blankly. I carefully picked up a stone that was rolling on the ground. The power to connect the most distant things in the world, it was difficult. Yu Hozung saw my actions and clicked his tongue. Stupid guy. I just gave an example. A relationship can't be made and a story generated by holding something. It takes a long time to narrow the distance between the materials and yourself. The next moment, something strange happened. The full probability of the first generation is responding to your actions. The story material has an affinity for you. The stone in the hand looked up at me in a pleasant manner. The story, the stone and I, has begun. Yu Hozung stared at me with a dumbfounded expression and his lips trembled. You, what the hell are you? Chapter 362. Inaudible Words. Part 2. The stone in my hand trembled like it was alive. You have acquired a new story. The story, the stone and I, wants to continue. It was a first for me. I just touched the stone and a story occurred? There were all sorts of complicated hypotheses in my head, but I didn't have an answer. The probability of the first generation is around you. Currently, the fourth wall is in a very thin state. The only doubts were these two system messages. Yu Hozung stared at me with suspicious eyes. I see, you are a reincarnator. Is that right? It seemed he had the wrong hypothesis about me. Were you stoned to death in your previous life? That's why the stone is, no. Oh, you're a stone head. That's why the stone. I picked up a branch thrown by Yu Hozung. The material of the story is sensitive to you. The story, Kim Dokja likes a branch, has begun. I glanced towards the dazed Yu Hozung, who had a gaping mouth. I'm afraid that my head isn't that bad. By my side, Li Jihai glared at me. Yu Hozung shouted with wide eyes. Hold this. I accepted the flower that Yu Hozung gave me. The story material has an affinity for you. The story, Kim Dokja with a flower, has begun. Yu Hozung continued to give me things, and I accepted all of them. The story material has an affinity for you. The story material has an affinity for you. My surroundings were filled with singing stones and flowers. After much agonizing, Yu Hozung made a decision. Grab me. Where do you mean? Here, grab me here. Yu Hozung's eyes were blazing. I understood his anger. The real stories that took 10, 100, or even 1,000 years to build up were easily obtained by me. He was bound to feel like this. If you wish, please excuse me. I sighed and placed a hand on Yu Hozung's shoulder. Why was this small shoulder so hard? Yu Hozung said, there is no change. Is it limited to inanimate objects? The character, Yu Hozung, shows a small liking towards you. The shocked Yu Hozung withdrew from my hand. What is this? The next second, I heard a message in my ears. The story person who is loved by all has been acquired. It was the other residents of the village who showed interest in me, while Yu Hozung was in shock. It has been a long time since I've seen this crazy talent. This is a rare friend. Did you come from the outside? Are you interested in the cattle feed? I accepted the cattle feed that the woman gave me in a dazed mood. Human Kim Dokja. This was the first time I received such attention in my almost 30 years of living. I was talented? Dokja Sasai is definitely talented. You've been reading this novel for over 10 years. Perhaps her librarian's work had been busy lately because Yu Senga sounded tired. Is it related to reading the novel? I can't think of anything else but that. This has never happened in the meantime. Come to think of it, that wasn't true. There were some characters who had good feelings towards me as soon as they saw me. Maybe it is because the wall is thinner? I heard Yu Senga's words and thought it was possible. I didn't know the exact reason, but it was possible the failure of the fourth wall had closed the distance between the world and me. Then how far did this power apply? Looking back, Li Jihai seemed to have her own sense of pride as she muttered to herself while holding a branch in her hand. I poked her with my finger. Eek! The startled Li Jihai screamed. Ajusi, are you crazy? The finger that touched poop. It didn't work. Now, let's see. I poked the shoulder of Chiok Junyong, sitting next to me. Is this a challenge? That's not it. This didn't work either. Then what were the principles behind it? No matter how I thought about it, I couldn't figure out how my talent worked. It is really fucking talent. I can't explain it any other way. The one who spoke with Yu Hozung, who had been preoccupied with his thoughts for a long time. Ferocious anger was seething on his face. Yu Hozung approached me with a child's stride. You might not know, but I hate strange fates the most. In particular, I hate those like you who don't try hard and easily obtain something. One invincible fist, Yu Hozung, was such a person. He liked people with a persistent spirit and cared for those who strove to overcome their insurmountable talent. In Yu Hozung's eyes, a man like me was a criminal who would destroy the first generation with talent. For the first time today, I am going to break my belief. Huh? I will teach you story control. I didn't know why Yu Hozung changed his mind. The only certainty was that he discovered some possibilities for me. As if to leave a lifelong disciple, Yu Hozung troubled me day and night. Phenomena and truth aren't the same. Using a story properly means understanding its language. Solid ground is needed to leap into abstraction. That is the details of the stories you have built up. Etc. There were so many ghostly words that I thought it would be better to read Ways of Survival again. I ate a tangerine that the villagers gave me and thought hard about it. Stupid guy. It is a face that doesn't understand anything. I'm sorry. Don't try to understand it if you don't know. Not everyone will learn control in the same way. What are you saying? It was like I was struck. It is your problem from the beginning. You lack respect for the elderly. You must learn how to listen first. I don't think I can listen better than this. I'm telling you to listen to the words of your story. Words of the story? Was this mentioned in Ways of Survival? You already have the talent to communicate with stories. It is the talent to listen to their emotions and words. It was true. I didn't know when, but I was able to read the stories, just like they were people. However, I want to control the stories, not chat. The stories aren't controllable. The one saying this was the person who taught the method to control stories. Can you control your thoughts? Of course I can. Then don't think of anything for 5 minutes. I nodded as if it was easy. Don't think, don't think. Damn, I was thinking, don't think. I tried hard to escape my thoughts, but it wasn't easy. In 5 minutes, many things passed through my head. For example, the probability of Yu Jonghyuk becoming a girl and killing the demon kings, or Han Suyong suffering from an unknown delirium declaring, "I'm sorry for plagiarizing Kim Dokja at the time." I raised both hands and surrendered. I can't do it. You're a fool. The story Demon King of Salvation is laughing at you. This is what you have to do from today. Listen to the words of the story. But don't be afraid. No matter how big the story, they are stories that you gained. Turning away, Yu Hozung looked like a teacher for the first time. A story can dominate us, but sometimes it tells us the way. From that day on, I started practicing story control. To be precise, it was practice to hear the voices of the story more accurately. The giant story torch that swallowed the myth is annoyed by your interest. The stories were unfamiliar to me, but after a day or two, they started to gradually open up. I listened to the voices of the stories that had refrained from expressing their emotions so far. The story King of a Kingless World says it was very happy at the time. The stories told their tales, and I heard them. The stories became the memories we accumulated. The feeling of pleasure as the 4-in demonic beheading sword broke the absolute throne. Yes, I really enjoyed it. It was because this was my first story. The story person who opposes the miracle says the returnee was really troublesome. That's right, the Myung Ilsang bastard was really tricky. I fought with Yu Jonghyuk and Han Suyong and still almost died. The story one who hunted the king of disasters misses the taste of the snake wine. The story one who killed an outer god is asking you to remember. Every time I heard these words, I was immersed in my memories. On the other hand, it was hard to suppress the urgency if I delayed here for too long. Han Soo-young, Yoo Jong-hyuk, Anna Croft. Those who pursued a different ending from me might already be knocking at the door of the next scenario. The storied Demon King of Salvation says you shouldn't run away anymore. I focused on the story again. From a certain point, the voices of the stories grew and I found it hard to distinguish between reality and the illusion. My sense of space was fading. I couldn't tell if I was in the story or if I was listening to the story in reality. The story revolutionary of the silver screen is hungry for a new revolution. Yes, I'm sorry. I neglected you for too long. The story Gourmet Association's heretic is complaining of hunger. The story Miracle Gambler wants another big bet. In between, dreamlike screens passed by. Doc SSI. We almost died. Do you know? A juicy. The voices of the party members were faintly heard from somewhere. Oh, how cheap. You are training alone? We will learn quickly. Who can we learn from? I had a thought while listening to those voices. If this was really a dream, it was a sweet dream. Why am I not getting a story? Doc Jae-hyung got a story from doing this. Get your hands off him, Lee Gil-young. You stay away, Shin Yu-sung. In my dream, I heard the children muttering things like a juicy and I or Doc Jae-hyung and Lee Gil-young. I didn't know how they would use such stories even if they did obtain them, but the giant story Demon World Spring is looking at your story together. Why? I listened to the voices of the children and felt warm. In my dim vision, countless stories were watching the scene with me. The storied person who is loved by an archangel likes your stories. The storied king of a kingless world is watching the children. The storied giant's liberator is looking at the party members with fond eyes. All the stories resembled me, and I resembled all the stories. If so, that guy alone on the other side was surely part of us. The giant story torch that swallowed the myth is turning away from you. I spoke to it. Stop being grumpy and come here. There was no answer. The one who threatened other stories with its size was turning its back to us. Its head was drooping like a child reading something. Maybe I already knew. This was a small child immersed in its own story. Still, such stories couldn't exist alone. I spoke carefully to its back. It looks interesting. The torch that swallowed the myth looked up at me and raised its body. You. The story will a very large body glared at me. Strangely, I wasn't afraid of it. This guy was a story. All stories had to flow somewhere. Where do you want to go? It couldn't easily answer my question and shut its mouth. It probably couldn't answer. I knew its heart. Come with me. To where? I slowly opened my mouth and spoke. I wanted all my stories to reach. The story asked, what is at the end of the whole story? I don't know. Still, at least we won't be alone. The story Hell of Eternity is looking at you. After a while, I felt the stories wrapping around my fingertips. My body floating in the waves of the story gradually became heavy, and I slowly opened my eyes. I couldn't tell how much time had passed. My legs were numb. I looked down and saw Lee Gil-young and Shin Yu-sung leaning against them while sleeping. They weren't stories. They were children with real bodies. I lightly stroked the hair of the children. The giant story torch that swallowed the myth is listening to your story. Finally, I was ready to leave for the next scenario. At this time, the only survivor of the 331st island was moving towards the next scenario. You have slaughtered all participants on the island. You are the only survivor of the 331st island. You are qualified to enter the following scenario. A black coat was flapping and the black demon sword shone. Looking at the portal to the next scenario, Yoo Jong-hyuk was reminded of the insidious presence he met just before coming here. The outer god in the third round, whose identity was unknown. I can't tell you the full contents of the revelation. It is too much of a breach of probability, even for me. However, I can give this much. This way, it will be a fair fight. He turned on the smartphone and a text file appeared. Han Soo-young record of the 1963rd round, first. Yu Jong-hyuk moved towards the portal while opening the first chapter of the story he didn't know. Chapter 363. Inaudible Words. Part 3. It had been a week since my arrival in the village. After all the fables settled down in their places, I began preparing for the next scenario right away. The Isle of Reincarnators is formed around 3 islands, the small island where the probability of the first generation of fables is applicable. The middle island, where the probability of the second generation of fables is applicable. Finally, the main island, where the probability of the third generation of fables is applicable. Unlike how it was in the small island, I'd be directly clashing against the constellations from the middle island onwards. Meaning, the beings that managed to survive while breaking past the rather realistic probability of the first generation were waiting for me there. The great fable, Torch That Swallowed the Myth, urges you to get a move on. As usual, one of the guys remained temperamental, but, well, I figured that I had gained enough control over them by now, anyway. Yu Hosong said this before, fables would try to control their user, but at the same time, they would also show the person the way forward, too. The great fable, Demon World Spring, is waiting for your decision. These guys would have to continue existing within me from now on. We'd get to tell new stories, and they would shine, as new and different fables, as well. Miss Hui-won, good to see you that you're unhurt. TL, Yong Hee-won, Jong Hui-won. Can't you change your repertoire of greetings already? I almost died for real this time, you know? I was told that my companions arrived around a week after I began my fable-controlled training. Apparently, they got lost at the outskirts of the island, and that delayed their arrival somewhat. I looked around and asked her. Where is everyone? They are in training right now. We walked for a bit and soon, the sight of the kids, Yi Hyun-sung, and Jang Hyong sitting cross-legged on the ground, caught my eyes. It seemed that their training wasn't easy, judging from their current facial expressions. But, that was rather obvious. Even at the shortest estimation, the fable-controlled training would at least need around 2 months. The Yu Jung-hyuk from the original story needed to waste over 3 weeks, even with his incredible talent, so I quietly observed the fables of my companions. Fable, Kim Dokja Company's code of conduct, is writhing around in pain. Fable, one who hears the monster's voice, is moaning in pain. Fable, one who craves for the trust of his comrades, is in great pain. Like how I earned my fables, they too had earned theirs. Going through the same scenarios didn't mean that we'd automatically earn the exact same fables. Their fables would be different from each other's, because they all possessed different levels of sensibilities. The flow of time here is slower compared to other islands, so it'll be fine to take it easy with your training. You shouldn't try to rush it. You will be able to fight properly in the Great War of Saints and Demons only after you've completed your training, you see. I understand. Fable, Demon King's fanatical believer, is singing a song. Oh, Dokja Hyung said it back then. I am the god of the world. Follow me, and you'll learn the truth of the world. And when Gilyong wakes up, please tell him this. Something really bad will happen if he continues to acquire twisted fables. Lee Gilyong E. Gilyong. Jong Hui-won broke into a fit of giggles, and I reprimanded her with a slightly more serious tone of voice. This isn't a joke, you know. I'm not joking, either. Mr. Dokja, you really need to consciously recognize your position. I'm talking about recognizing just what kind of a person you are to these kids. Do you think they would have made it this far without you, Mr. Dokja? I wordlessly stared at Shin Yu-sung and Lee Gilyong as they pinched the backs of each other's hands even during the training itself. These 2 kids trusted me and were willing to come this far while sharing our imperfect story together. A brand new fable that had not existed before has begun sprouting within you. It's the same story for me. The last person I looked at was Jang Hyong. Trickles of cold perspiration soaked her forehead as she maintained the intense battle against her fables. I don't want to hear it. Honestly, I don't want to. But, you must hear it. No matter what, you must. My ears overheard the fable's voice coming out of her. With that, I could guess which fable Jang Hyung was watching right now. Most likely, she'd get to awaken a new attribute on this island. And then, she'd use that as a foundation to become the king of the Transcenders. Mr. Dokja. Yes? Are you aware that you've been behaving indifferently only towards Miss Hyung? That wasn't my original intention. Things somehow worked out that way. That story you told us, shouldn't you tell that to Miss Hyung, as well? The story I told my companions. It was quite clear what Jang Huiwon referred to in this case. This world is constructed with a novel as the basis, and I'm the sole reader who read that novel. Currently, I've told that story to only a small number of my companions. Most other people, including Kyrios and the Breaking the Sky Sword Saint, didn't know this truth. Jang Hyung was no exception. I lowered my waist and observed her face a little closer. Deep double eyelids, and gently curling golden hair. Even without moisture retention, pale smooth and soft skin. Slightly plump cheeks, and charming dimples that appear when she smiles. Due to an oddly androgynous atmosphere, her gender is hard to identify with her face alone. The descriptions from within the text of Ways of Survival, and the comments I had left behind in the past, were all coming back to me now. Her appearance that exactly matched my imagination became an indescribable guilt weighing me down. I'm not sure how much I can be honest with her. Pardon? I couldn't tell Jang Hyung the truth. I mean, how could I? Tell her that I created you? That you were born because of my comments. I've been thinking about this quite often lately. Maybe, it wasn't that the novel I'd been reading became reality, but that novel was simply a recording of this world. What are you suddenly talking about? Maybe, that was what I'd been wishing for. Just like what the much younger Kim Dokja had been thinking, a long time ago. Jang Huiwon looked back at me with a puzzled expression, and I replied with a weak grin. I like being with you, Miss Huiwon. Yes, me too. It's the same story with our other companions, as well. For now, that's as far as my thoughts have gone. I apologize for being selfish like this. She was lost in a train of thought for a little while, but nodded her head soon enough. Well, it's fine. Mr. Dokja, you are doing what you want to do, anyway. I understand. Thank you. By the way. When our companions wake up, please give them this. And this is? It's the information on the upcoming scenario. The memo pad I handed over to Jang Huiwon contained information on the Middle Island, our next scenario. Hang on, Mr. Dokja, again you. Jang Huiwon and her quick wits seemed to have realized why I was handing this thing over to her. I knew that you'd show up around today or so. I sought out Yu Hosung first, before leaving the small island. Whatever the case might have been, he taught me the fable control, so I wanted to express my gratitude. Well, that was a lie. I had an ulterior motive for being here. May I ask, why did you accept our group? Yu Hosung frowned deeply after hearing my sudden question. It's just the whims of an old geezer. It was a rather bizarre sight to see a kid who looked to be 10 years old or so refer to himself as a geezer, but it wasn't an improbable spectacle, either. Because, the invincible fist Yu Hosung was an existence that had lived far longer than your regular demon kings or archangels, after all. The 0th Murim, known only through legends being passed down. The greatest expert under the heavens in that Murim was none other than Yu Hosung. If you're done asking your questions, get out of my sight this instant. I do not wish to look at your ugly mug any longer. He was putting up the exact same act of driving away one's guests, just like in the beginning. Don't you want to come with us? What rubbish are you spewing now? I'm aware that, once the scenario on the small island concludes, you are allowed to advance to the next one. The upcoming Great War of Saints and Demons is a scenario like that, after all. Yu Hosung's brows greatly quivered, just then. Even back in the original story, there was a turn where the Great War of Saints and Demons took place in the Isle of Reincarnators. The meeting of the new and the old, a fusion scenario with the first generation. Most likely, the Bureau should be busy with advertising this scenario using such slogans on the outside. Which was by design, actually. It was a scheme to use the first generation of fables, only spoken through rumors and hearsay, as the focal point of the advertisement itself. The thing was, though, the Bureau's scheme to make lots of moolah could also serve as an opportunity for the forgotten who were left behind and abandoned by the passing of the eras. It's possible that you might be able to leave this island by using this chance. The Isle of Reincarnators was like the living museum of the Starstream. The reincarnators of this place could live forever in perpetuity on this island, but at the same time, must suffer the curse of never being able to step outside, all because of the contract these people signed with the master of the island. How long are you planning to remain as a relic of the bygone era, like some kind of a stuffed animal? Yu Hosong slowly closed his eyes. It looked as if he was trying to calm his rising anger. What do you expect from us after leaving here? The forgotten being strong is only applicable within this island. The first generation no longer matters. Nobody wants to see such a tale. For sure, he was right about that. The majority of the reincarnators wouldn't be able to properly display their prowess after leaving the island where the probability of the first generation was still active. The first generation of the forgotten wouldn't be able to adapt to the outside world ruled by the system, rife with powerful ki and magic. However, not everyone would be like that. The transcenders who studied under you are playing active roles in the outside world even now. Meaning, there are definitely some who yearn to see the fables you have created. I'm sure there are. However, I'm also sure that such a thing can't become the trend. Does it have to be, though? What's that? I'm asking you whether it needs to become the trending topic in order to become a good fable or not. Since when did you start caring about such a thing, anyway? Yu Hosong's eyes shot open and the proverbial flames were flickering within them. Are you suggesting that, after all this time, I should become a plaything of the constellations once more? If I take one more step here, make that one last push, then I'd definitely get my head blown away, just like other demon kings. So, I couldn't take that step. What I did take, though, was just half a step, instead. You've been listening to the story of the fables for a long time. I had to shake this guy up exactly to the length of my half step, so that he'd willingly take the other half by himself. Don't you think it's about time that you start personally telling your own story? Yu Hosong's eyes opened even wider, clear ripples visibly spreading out within his irises. I formed a wordless smile and turned around to leave. Fable, Pebble, and I, is cackling to itself. Well, I've cast my stone now, and the rest wasn't up to me anymore. Because, the one to make this seriously scary transcender move his butt would be someone else, actually. Are you really leaving without saying goodbye? Everyone is focused right now, and I don't want to disturb them. Besides, we should meet up again pretty soon, anyway. Also, there's something that I must do after going there first. I chose not to say any special goodbyes to my companions, but did say my farewell to Zhang Huiwen. She carried a rather rueful expression, but it seemed that she had accepted my decision as was. Please, you must survive. Let's meet again. We lightly bumped fists. Just before my departure, the villagers came to see me off. Would you like some bread on your journey? It's been freshly baked this morning. I thought you liked stones, so I brought some of my collections. Several villagers I had grown friendlier with during my stay gifted me with some food. As the villagers grew further away in my view, I spotted Yu Hosong among them. He too wished for some kind of a change to take place. And that was why he probably decided to teach me and my companions, while praying that the skill he taught would change the island, flip the great war of saints and demons on its head, and eventually, transform the Starstream itself, too. Fable, reincarnator of 10,000 years, is singing a song of farewell. Fable, world's most ancient farmer, is wishing you Godspeed. Some would leave, while some would remain behind. The moments of the most distant things meeting and then parting again would be remembered by the fables. That was how this world continued to exist. As I turned around, I heard Yu Hosong's voice projection enter my ear. It's possible that the master of the island might become interested in you. It'll be better for you to be more cautious. I returned a light smile as my reply. There was this message that kept repeating itself in front of my eyes since a while ago, you see. Master of the island is paying close attention to you. I approached the village's giant brazier to find that Chiok Junjiang was waiting for me. Let us travel together. Sounds good. We'd get separated during our transfer to the middle island anyway, but still, I felt somewhat more confident now that we were making our entrance together. By the way, about the next scenario. The scenario of the middle island was a preparatory one for the main island's Great War of Saints and Demons. Chiok Junjiang nodded his head, seemingly having misunderstood what I said somehow. Now that I recall, you are a demon king, are you not? Alright. If I'm destined to fight you, then I swear to give it my all. And no, hang on a sec. That's not what This great one shan't be tethered to the unnecessary personal emotions of fate during our true battle, so you can rest easy. No, hang on. I'd much rather prefer that you be tethered to your unnecessary emotions, though. Somehow, I now had to pray fervently that I don't become Chiok Junjiang's target during the upcoming scenario. Tutorial scenario has concluded. Transfer to the middle island has begun. Main scenario has been updated. Accompanied by the update message, the surrounding view began changing bit by bit. You have arrived on middle island number 3. Thankfully, I couldn't see Chiok Junjiang next to me. The moment my transfer was complete, the acrid odor of blood stung my nose. I was greeted by the grisly sight of dead corpses belonging to constellations and incarnations strewn about on a vast plain. This sight was more than enough to dampen one's spirit, but I was relieved to see it, actually. It was far more advantageous to start this scenario later than the others, as that would lower the odds of running into powerful constellations that had entered here beforehand. Probability of the second generation is active within the relevant area. A portion of your skills have been unlocked. A portion of your overall stats have been restored. Along with the crackling noise, I felt my shoulders grow just a bit wider, while my height grew, too. I had been feeling really constricted for some time, but now, it felt like I could breathe a bit easier. A new hidden scenario has arrived. I quickly opened the scenario's info window. Hidden scenario, snatching modifiers type, main. Difficulty? Clear conditions. Take away the modifier necklace from the enemy designated as your target. In case the participant does not possess any modifiers, it will be replaced by his or her true name. Time limit. Reward, randomly obtain one of the target's fables, acquisition of a ticket for entry into the main island. Failure? This scenario was the final hurdle before advancing to the main island. The content of this scenario was simple in nature. I needed to take away the mark of the modifier from someone who was designated as my target. A small necklace shimmering in silver already found itself dangling around my neck by then. Demon King of Salvation. It was the necklace with my modifier written on. Number of survivors on Middle Island number 3 is 262. 262, huh? That was a far higher number than I expected. However, it wasn't enough to change my plan. Because the really powerful constellations should have advanced to the main island by now. No, the really important bit was just who got tagged as my target, but the powerful ones had already disappeared from here, so it must be. Your primary target has been decided. Modifier of your primary target is. Right after that, I discovered a group of constellations busy running towards this location from a distance, a group that was urgently running away as if they were being chased down by something. Along with the noise of the ground exploding, a part of the group became bloody sacks of meat and flew away like a splitting ocean wave. And I could see the one giving chase to the escaping constellations through the rising murky dust cloud. God d*****. Why was that b** starred still here? Chapter 364. Inaudible Words. Part 4. Bloody hell, I definitely didn't want to run into that guy here. I quickly hid behind the mountain of corpses while witnessing the waves of magical energy blowing around like violent storm winds. Not too long afterwards, I heard the voices of those hurriedly running away. That crazy monster. You walk. The constellations were crushed mercilessly and were killed off, leaving behind only their death throes. Fables flooded out among the bits of body parts flying about, and the blood shed by the incarnations dyed the land crimson red. Run! Hurry! Right behind them, the slaughterer responsible for this bloody spectacle finally arrived on the scene. I saw the purple-colored aura bright enough to be visible even from behind the tall mountain of corpses. All I could do was to silently watch the proceedings, unable to even breathe properly. The great fable, torch that swallowed the myth, is growling. The great fable, demon world spring, is shrinking back. Here came the possessor of the incredible status that could even negatively affect my fables. Fable, flame that annihilates evil, has begun its storytelling. The flame that annihilates evil, one of the fables that would display the greatest effect when dealing with evil-leaning constellations. I knew the owner of this fable really well. Flowing locks of platinum blonde hair, violet-colored eyes. The radiant wings of an archangel spreading behind his back dot. He was the sole archangel among Eden that displayed its hostility towards me. Constellation, savior of the corrupted, has begun its judgment for salvation. The savior of the corrupted, Archangel Michael, a being who possessed the same modifier words, just like me. TL, the Korean words for savior and salvation is different by only one letter. Here, MC is not saying his modifier has the word savior in it, but the same first two letters. Kugugugugu. The sword of savior, held in Archangel Michael's hands, split the world in half. The purple-colored fog on the blade spread out, and this fog ignited into flames that soon started burning the atmosphere itself. The flames crossed the air in the blink and reached the constellations, trying to escape. Ayahawk. 5 or 6 constellations running away screamed at the top of their lungs and crumbled to the ground. Fables became ash within the purple-colored flames and scattered away. The only things remaining on the spots once occupied by the dead constellations were modifier necklaces gleaming in a silvery hue. Michael flew in the air and landed beside them to confirm the dropped loot. It's still not here. He seemed to be searching for something. A bizarre light shot out from his eyes as he began observing his surroundings. Feels like there's one more rat hidden somewhere nearby. Could I win if I was to fight Michael here? I grew quite a bit stronger after learning Fable Control, but still, I wasn't confident of winning against that guy for the time being. Not only was he the strongest battle angel in Eden, he was also infinitely closer to becoming a myth-grade constellation, too. If he decided to go all out, then he'd not be in a disadvantageous position against even Poseidon who fought in Gigantomachia. Even if I knew all the info on the guy through ways of survival, well... Go! Silvery light oozed out from Michael's 2 eyes. That was Eye of the Archangel. One of the exclusive skills possessed by archangels that detected the presence of evil. It seemed that he could use that skill now after the probability of the second generation had been unlocked. His eyes, burning like the ghostly flames of Dakibi, began scanning his surroundings. The range of his vision slowly shifted and was heading in my direction. My heart began beating faster, bit by bit. Should I make a run for it? It was at that moment that the pebble the villagers gave me writhed within my inner pocket. Fable, Pebble, and I has begun its storytelling. And something quite unexpected happened next. Due to the effect of the fable, your detectable presence has become similar to that of a pebble dot. The demonic energy emitted by you has become assimilated to the surrounding nature. Michael scanned the mountain of corpses I was hiding behind without much of a reaction, before eventually withdrawing his vision while muttering to himself. Was I mistaken? He then complained with an unhappy-sounding voice as he rose up in the air. All because the scribe issued a time-wasting order. His wings spread out widely, and his figure disappeared into the distance in an instant. Only after his presence was completely gone did I stand up from my hiding spot, while wiping the cold sweat off my forehead. Fable, Pebble, and I, is pestering you for praise. You did well. Thanks. Fable, Pebble, and I, is giggling happily to itself. I had no idea that this fable could help me out in this manner. A fable that could turn my presence into that of a pebble. I did feel a bit mixed about it, but still, it might come in handy later on. I then quickly took a look around the devastated surroundings. Number of survivors on Middle Island number 3 is 224. In that brief amount of time, 38 people got slaughtered. Most of them were incarnations or constellations only on the level of historical figure grade, but there were some fable grade mixed in among the victims, as well. TL, the historical figure grade was first introduced in CH40, but it seems to have been not TL'd by the former translator for some reason. Also, previous narrative grade will change to fable grade, as they both use the exact same Korean spelling. ED, seems like historical figure grade was TL'd as upper or great grade. The sight reminded me of what it had looked like right after a natural disaster swept by. This was the true power of the archangels. The high-ranking demon kings should also possess a similar level of power, too. Now that was a close shave. If things went wrong, I was planning to use revelation, even. You were watching? Yes. I was on a break, you see. I recovered a bit of my energy after hearing Yu Sang-a's clear voice. TL, Yu Sang-a. Yu Sang-a. Right, even if the enemies that I had to fight against were extremely powerful, I too held several hidden cards up my sleeve. By the way, don't the conditions of the corpses seem a little odd? I nodded my head and looked down at the sagging corpses. To be more specific, I wasn't looking at the remains, but their modifier necklaces, which seemed a bit off. Most of those had either disappeared, or a portion of the modifiers were damaged. Yu Sang-a asked a question. Even if we say that necklaces have disappeared after they were hunted down as targets, but why would only portions of modifiers disappear like that? The ancient, the aged, and S. Several modifiers were missing words here and there. It was as if someone deliberately stole only certain letters and nothing else. Some people are exploiting the loophole. Loophole? Do you remember the condition to clear this scenario? Wasn't it, snatch away the modifier necklace from an opponent designated as your target? Correct. But in reality, there's no reason to hunt down your target, you see. What's important here is to get your hands on the necklace itself. Yu Sang-a replied in a surprised voice. Ah, could it be? Just as I nodded my head, a new message entered my ears. It is possible to collect modifier syllables in the corresponding area. You can craft a new necklace with the collected syllables. There are those who steal modifiers from other constellations and create the modifier necklace that their targets are wearing. Basically, a modifier was a combination of words. For instance, my modifier, Demon King of Salvation, was made up of the following syllables: Da, Mon, King, of, Sal, Va, and Tian. Meaning, as long as you collected those syllables, you didn't have to snatch my necklace away, but would still be able to construct the same thing as mine. Why is the Bureau permitting this kind of shortcut? The condition of snatching away the designated target's necklace can potentially slow down the progress of the scenario, you see. Also, there's a possibility that your target has already escaped from this scenario too, which will further complicate the situation. Constellations hated slow progress, and they really loved the fast-paced action and the continuous rush of that refreshing feeling. Which means, all these people were sacrificed for just a single word. I nodded my head again. Most likely, powerful constellations slaughtered the lower-classed ones and combined the necessary modifiers belonging to their targets. Well, that would be a lot quicker than searching for a target that constantly ran away from you, after all. Rather than praying for the dead's safe journey to the afterlife, I began rummaging through the discarded necklaces that now resembled corn on the cob, missing many of its kernels. Yu Sang-a didn't say anything. You have acquired the modifier syllable of dot. There were almost no useful words remaining. The majority of them were common appositions. Without a doubt, all the necessary words had already been collected by other constellation as the pieces for their puzzle combinations. I did rummage through the pile of corpses that Michael left behind and found a few useful items, though. As expected, it seemed that a constellation like Michael wouldn't hesitate to throw away items that weren't star relics. Indeed, his wealth was on another scale. But, besides all that, why don't you come out already? Michael is far away by now, you know. My voice quietly resounded out in this empty, devastated location. No presence of a person could be felt, but I still spoke up one more time. You should come out while I'm still being civil, okay? There was one other person hiding within the corpses. This person managed to perfectly hide their presence, but I was pretty sure of them being there. Why? Because I clearly witnessed them going into hiding just as the bloody slaughter commenced. Accompanied by boozy noise, a corner of the corpse pile collapsed and fell, as a certain someone stood up. An incarnation that somehow managed to avoid the detection of Eye of the Archangel revealed themselves. Demon King of Salvation. A blonde-haired woman full of wounds was glaring straight at me. Blood continued to flow out from both her torn arm and the grievous wound on her stomach. Even at a casual glance, they seemed to be pretty serious injuries. I spoke while looking back at her. Looks like things are not going as well as you hoped, Anna Croft. I recalled the moments when Anna Croft first made her appearance within Ways of Survival. The prophet of Asgard and capable of freely using precognition and retrocognition, she was the one character that possessed the skills to counter the regressor, Yoo Jung-hyuk. Because of that, she became his chief rival in the latter half of Ways of Survival. During the original storyline, that was a woman willing to bear any cost for the sake of her great cause. One of the most powerful incarnations, and a character who'd become the master of Zarathustra in the distant future, something that even constellations feared. Such a person was sagging powerlessly right in front of my eyes. I crushed one of the Great Return pills I bought earlier and shoved it inside her mouth. She opened her eyes around 30 minutes after that. As soon as she did, she spotted me and, while breaking out in a near convulsion, stood up from the ground in great haste. Sit down. Your physical condition is still dangerous. She confirmed that her wrists and ankles weren't bound, and quickly stepped back, still being wary of me. Why did you save me? I've got a few things to ask you. And what makes you think I'll answer your questions? She growled like a wild beast. This was a slightly different appearance from the prophet that I remembered. Why are you participating in the great war of saints and demons? So I can earn a great fable, obviously. Could there be any other reason? But, shouldn't you be getting ready to tackle a different great fable scenario by now? Am I wrong? Anna Croft bit her lips after hearing my question. In the original storyline, she shouldn't be taking part in the great war of saints and demons. Because she was supposed to participate in another great fable scenario called Ragnarok instead. That is. The light in her eyes shook visibly. And that was the same thing as me hearing her answer. You've been discarded by the nebula. This problem doesn't concern you. She began gritting her teeth now. I could easily understand the rage contained within those words, though. Anna Croft and I clashed against each other a couple of times so far, and that changed the future of the original storyline she was supposed to live out. Back during the Gourmet Association, or back during Gigantomachia, she didn't get to achieve any notable feats. As her repeated failures accumulated, the nebula Asgard simply chucked her into the midst of the great war of saints and demons, all by herself, after she was deemed no longer useful. Was this because of me? The future that I changed didn't just transform the fate of Yoo Jung-hyuk and my companions. I spoke to Anna Croft as she glared at me with eyes filled with contempt. What if you get to earn a myth-grade fable in this place? What did you say? Wouldn't Asgard have to reassess you in that case, then? The myth-grade fable, her irises quaked visibly after hearing that term. What are you trying to say here? I can help you. I'm asking you what your motives are. I don't have any ulterior motives. I only wish for you and Zarathustra to grow without any issues. That is all. Character Anna Croft has activated lie detection LV.8. Character Anna Croft has confirmed the applicable remark to be true. Her expression was dyed in pure astonishment, but it recovered quickly enough. The light in her eyes reverted back to the one belonging to the calm, level-headed prophet from my memories. And what do you want in return? As expected, prophets were quick on the uptake, and that made my life easier. Lend me your ability for a bit. Most likely, Anna Croft had no idea that the first being I met on this middle island happened to be her, and just how glad I felt about this lucky encounter. Somewhere in the mountainous region of the island. Asmodeus rubbed its chin while looking at the modifier necklace it earned as it stood on top of a tall, ancient tree. The Hunter of Dages. Now originally, Asmodeus was supposed to target the modifier, the Hunter of Grudges. Unfortunately, other competitors hunted down its target already, and thanks to that, it was left with a tattered necklace that said, the Hun of, instead. So, I've already acquired, Dages, and, that means all I need to find is, Gru. The problem was, there weren't that many constellations remaining on this island that still possessed the modifier containing, Gru. The side effect of participating later, because I was taking care of my dependents, is fairly large, isn't it? Asmodeus stayed on top of the tree and scanned every corner of the island to search for the remaining constellations. It was at that point that the Demon King heard the explosions ringing out from the forest up north. Judging from their scale, it could guess who was behind them. Yet another round of cleanup had commenced, it seemed. It had proved to be entertaining if Asmodeus decided to stick its nose in there, but then, a familiar voice entered its ear canals. According to precognition, it is somewhere nearby. Oh, really? Asmodeus's expression brightened up the instant it heard those voices. It lightly jumped off from the treetop and arrived before the owner of the voice with a gobsmacking turn of speed. There they were, a man wearing a white coat and a platinum blonde woman. Asmodeus smiled brightly. Demon King of Salvation, looks like we were fated to cross paths in this matter. The Demon King of Salvation. The owner of the syllable it was looking for was now standing right in front of its eyes. However, the man didn't seem to be flustered at all. I didn't come here to fight, Asmodeus. That's not something for you to decide. Because, you need the syllable, Gru, right? Killing me and taking away, Gru, is an option, sure. However, I have a more interesting offer. Do you want to hear it? Asmodeus formed a dazed expression for a bit, before making its reply. It's already quite amusing that you are making me an offer, yet it's also supposed to be interesting, too? Now I want to hear about it more than ever. Asmodeus's voice was thickly dyed in excitement and madness already. It even sported an expression that said it was seriously weighing the pros and cons of devouring the tasty prey right in front of its eyes, or an even more delicious potential prey later on. It then continued on. However, if I don't find your offer interesting, then you will. I'm not the only one with the syllable, Gru, on this island. Another owner of, Gru? Asmodeus's expression shifted once more. Could it be? If we're participating in the great war of saints and demons, we should start acting more seriously now, don't you agree? The reflection of Kim Dokja in the eyes of Asmodeus was grinning like a true demon king at that moment. Are you interested in archangel hunting?